I should start by saying I'm not exactly a nature person. I grew up in a small town where the outdoors mostly meant a small patch of woods behind our neighborhood. Sure, friends could sometimes drag me out for a hike, but going alone into the wilderness or camping wasn't something I'd ever do by choice. Honestly, I've always preferred a warm bed, a good internet connection, and the comfort of knowing people are close by. Still, last fall, a couple of friends convinced me to join them for one night of camping in the woods. They promised just one night and said it would be a good chance to relax and get away from everything. I figured it might be worth a try. We picked a spot deep in a state forest, far from any trails, where the trees were tall and thick. By the time we found a clearing and set up our tents, the sun was already setting. We built a fire, and I actually started to feel like I was enjoying myself a little. We laughed, talked about old times, and told ghost stories as the night settled in around us. Around midnight, everyone started getting tired and retreated to their tents. I was grateful I'd brought a small tent just for myself, and even though I was a bit on edge, the night was cold enough that I bundled up and managed to fall asleep quickly. A few hours later, I jolted awake. I didn't know why, but that instinct, that feeling that tells you something is wrong, had kicked in hard. I listened closely. Everything was dead silent. No rustling animals, no wind brushing through the leaves, just a heavy quiet that felt like it was pressing against my ears. Then I heard it. Soft, careful footsteps crunching through the leaves, moving slowly just outside my tent. My heart pounded, and I stayed completely still, straining to listen. Whoever, or whatever, it was moved with an unsettling slowness, like they were trying not to be heard. I told myself it was probably one of my friends going to the bathroom, but something about those footsteps felt wrong. They sounded too cautious. I lay there, barely daring to breathe until the footsteps finally faded. I tried to calm myself down, telling myself it was probably just a deer passing by, and after a while I managed to fall asleep again. But then, a while later, something else woke me. This time, there was no mistaking it. I heard whispering right outside my tent. My entire body froze. It wasn't any of my friends. I'd recognized their voices, and this whisper was wrong. Almost like someone trying to mimic a human whisper, but not quite getting it right. The voice was low, and I couldn't make out any words. Just the sound of someone murmuring right outside, inches away from me, separated only by the thin layer of fabric. I wanted to call out, but I couldn't make myself do it. Every instinct screamed at me to stay quiet. The whispering continued for what felt like an eternity before it finally stopped. Then, I heard those same slow, careful footsteps again, moving away from my tent and disappearing into the trees. I lay there, wide awake and terrified, for the rest of the night. The hours crept by, every sound amplified in the dark. When dawn finally broke, I crawled out of my tent, exhausted, and found my friends already awake and packing up their gear. Trying to keep it casual, I asked if any of them had been walking around last night or heard anything strange. They all shook their heads, looking as confused as I felt. I forced a laugh, pretending I'd probably just had a bad dream. On the hike back to the main trail, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us, hidden among the trees. When I got home, I looked up that area online and found old stories of people hearing strange sounds in those woods. Whispers, slow footsteps. I haven't been back since. My friends insist it was probably just a local prank. But deep down, I know that what I heard that night wasn't a prank. And sometimes lying awake at night, I can still hear that strange, almost human whisper just outside my window.